Hello, my friends. Welcome back to StoryPath English. Today I want to tell you about a man who became king at 20 years old. He ruled for only 12 years, but in those 12 years, he conquered the entire known world. He never lost a battle. His army marched over 20,000 miles. He built cities across 3 continents. His name became legend. By the time he died at 32, he had changed the world forever. His name was Alexander the Great. How did a young man from a small kingdom conquer the largest empire the world had ever seen? And why do we still tell his story more than 2,000 years later? Stay with me, and if you enjoy stories like this, please subscribe to hear more. It was a summer day in Pella, the capital of Macedonia, 356 BC. A baby was born in the royal palace. His father was King Philip of Macedonia. His mother was Olympias, a princess from a neighboring land. They named him Alexander. Macedonia was a small kingdom in the north of Greece. The Greek city-states to the south thought Macedonians were barbarians. They were not civilized. They were not cultured. They were not real Greeks. King Philip wanted to change that. He wanted to unite all of Greece under Macedonian rule. He wanted to make his kingdom great. And he wanted his son to be even greater. When Alexander was young, his father hired the best teacher in the world, a philosopher named Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander science, philosophy, medicine, and literature. He gave Alexander a copy of Homer's Iliad. Alexander carried that book with him for the rest of his life. He slept with it under his pillow. Aristotle taught Alexander that Greeks were the most civilized people in the world, but he also taught him to respect other cultures, to learn from them, to understand them. Alexander learned quickly. He was brilliant. He was brave. He was ambitious. But he also had a wild side. He was stubborn. He was impatient. He wanted everything now. His father once said to him, "My boy, you must find a kingdom big enough for your ambition. Macedonia is too small for you." When Alexander was 16, his father left him in charge of Macedonia. King Philip went to war against a neighboring tribe. Alexander stayed behind to rule. And he did something extraordinary. A rebellious tribe rose up against Macedonia. Alexander gathered an army. He led them into battle. He crushed the rebellion. He built a new city in his name. He was only 16 years old. But his relationship with his father was difficult. King Philip was a great king, but he was not a good father. He had many wives. He had other children. He divorced Alexander's mother. Alexander felt betrayed. He loved his mother. He hated to see her hurt. At a wedding feast, Philip was celebrating his new marriage. An argument broke out. Philip drew his sword and charged at Alexander. But he was drunk. He tripped and fell. Alexander looked at him and said, "Look at the man who wants to conquer Asia. He cannot even walk from one couch to another." Alexander left. He took his mother and went into hiding. They were separated for months, but eventually they made peace. Alexander returned. He was ready to serve his father. In 336 BC, King Philip was murdered. He was assassinated at his daughter's wedding. The killer was one of his own bodyguards. Many people believed Alexander's mother had planned it. We will never know the truth, but on that day, Alexander became king. He was 20 years old. His enemies thought he was weak. They thought a 20-year-old boy could not rule. The Greek city-states rebelled. The northern tribes attacked. Everyone waited to see what the young king would do. Alexander did not wait. He moved faster than anyone expected. He marched south with his army. He crushed the rebellion in Thebes. He destroyed the city completely. He killed thousands of men. He sold the women and children into slavery. The message was clear: do not challenge Alexander. The Greek city-states surrendered. They accepted him as their leader. Alexander was now king of Macedonia and leader of all Greece. But he wanted more. He wanted the world. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont. He took an army of about 40,000 men into Asia. His goal was to conquer the Persian Empire, the largest empire the world had ever seen. His generals thought he was crazy. Persia had millions of soldiers. Persia had unlimited gold. Persia had ruled the world for 200 years. Alexander had a small army. He had no navy. He had no money. But he had something else. He had courage. He had vision. And he had an unshakable belief that he was destined for greatness. He stopped at the site of Troy. He visited the tomb of Achilles, the hero of the Iliad. He prayed there. He asked for good luck. Then he marched east. The first great battle was at the Granicus River. Alexander led the charge himself. His horse was killed under him. He fought with his sword. He was almost killed, but his men saved him. They pushed through the Persian lines. They won the battle. Alexander buried his dead. He sent their families money. He honored them. Then he kept moving. He captured city after city. He did not just destroy them. He built new cities in their place. He named them Alexandria. There would be more than 20 cities named Alexandria across his empire. The second great battle was at Issus. The Persian king, Darius III, came with a huge army. He had hundreds of thousands of soldiers. He had chariots. He had cavalry. He had everything. Alexander had fewer than 50,000 men. But Alexander did something unexpected. He did not wait. He attacked. He led his cavalry straight through the Persian lines. He aimed for Darius himself. Darius saw Alexander coming. He turned his chariot and ran. When the king runs, the army runs. The Persians fled. Alexander captured Darius's family, his wife, his mother, his children. He treated them with respect. He gave them royal treatment. He did not harm them. Darius offered Alexander a peace deal. He offered him half of his empire. He offered him his daughter in marriage. He offered him a huge amount of gold. Alexander's general Parmenion said, "If I were Alexander, I would accept." Alexander replied, "So would I, if I were Parmenion." He refused the deal. He wanted all of Persia, nothing less. Alexander kept marching. He went south to Egypt. The Egyptians hated the Persians. They welcomed Alexander as a liberator. They made him pharaoh. They called him the son of the god Amun. In Egypt, Alexander founded the most famous of his cities, Alexandria. It would become the center of learning for the ancient world. Its library would hold the greatest collection of knowledge in history. Then he went back to fight Darius. The final battle was at Gaugamela. Darius had gathered the largest army the world had ever seen. 1 million men, some said. Elephants, chariots with blades on the wheels, everything. Alexander had fewer than 50,000 men. The night before the battle, Parmenion came to Alexander. He was worried. "My king," he said, "the enemy is too large. We should attack at night, catch them by surprise." Alexander said no. "I will not steal my victory," he said. He wanted to win in daylight, in front of everyone. The next morning, Alexander led his army into battle. He saw the Persian lines stretching for miles. He did not stop. He attacked. His cavalry smashed through the Persian center. He saw Darius in his chariot. He charged straight for him. Darius ran again. The Persian army collapsed. Alexander had conquered the Persian Empire. He was now king of Asia. He was 25 years old. But Alexander did not stop. He kept marching, east into Central Asia. He fought in the mountains of Afghanistan. He married a princess from the region. He respected local customs. He wanted his Greek and Persian subjects to live together as one people. He ordered his soldiers to marry Persian women. He gave them gifts. He threw huge weddings. He wanted to create a new race, a race of Greeks and Persians together. His soldiers did not like this. They thought Greeks were better. They did not want to mix with the people they had conquered. Alexander grew angry. He wanted unity. He wanted his empire to be one people. But his soldiers did not understand. Then Alexander marched to India. He wanted to go to the end of the world. He wanted to see the great ocean that surrounded the earth. He crossed the mountains into modern-day Pakistan. He fought against kings with war elephants. He won every battle. But his soldiers had had enough. They had been marching for 8 years. They had traveled thousands of miles. They were tired. They wanted to go home. They refused to go further. Alexander locked himself in his tent for 3 days. He was furious. He wanted to keep going. But finally he agreed. They would go home. He had conquered the known world, but he was not happy. He wanted more. On the way back, Alexander became sick. He was in Babylon, the capital of the Persian Empire. He had been drinking. He had been feasting. His body was worn out from years of war. He fell into a fever. He could not get up. His soldiers came to see him. They passed by his bed in silence. They had followed him across the world. They had fought for him. They had bled for him. Now they were saying goodbye. Alexander could not speak, but he raised his hand to each of them. He acknowledged them. He honored them. On June 10th, 323 BC, Alexander died. He was 32 years old. When his generals asked who would inherit his empire, he said, "To the strongest." His empire was divided among his generals. It would never be united again. Alexander the Great's story teaches us something important. He lived only 32 years. He ruled for only 12. But in that time, he changed the world. He spread Greek language and culture across 3 continents. He built cities that became centers of learning. He connected East and West. He created a world where ideas could travel freely. He believed that all people could live together, Greeks and Persians, Europeans and Asians. He did not see them as enemies. He saw them as subjects of one great empire. He was not perfect. He was proud. He was impatient. He killed friends in anger. He drank too much. He wanted too much. But he never stopped. He never gave up. He never doubted that he could achieve what others said was impossible. Alexander once said, "There is nothing impossible to him who will try." He proved it. A young man from a small kingdom, a boy who became king at 20, a man who conquered the world before he was 30. He died young, but his name did not die. 2,000 years later, we still tell his story. We still remember his name, because he showed us what is possible. He showed us that one person with courage and vision can change the world. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like this video and subscribe to StoryPath English for more stories that help you learn English naturally. And tell me in the comments, which historical story do you want to hear next? Where are you watching from? I love hearing from you. See you in the next story, my friends.